I actually had a couple of buddies of mine that were like, "Hey, man, can I ask you why you're betting against Saeed?" And I was all like, "Oh, I had this whole lengthy paragraph that I put out for all the reasons why Cody Stamann can win this fight." And what's terrible about it, doing something like that, is when you see the result and Saeed Nurmagomedov basically defies all of that logic and just submits Cody Stamann in less than a minute. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is when we look at the numbers right here, man, I mean, you could clearly see what the game plan was. For Cody Stamann, 1 of 4 significant strikes, meaning I'm going to throw maybe one shot, try to get in on that single, get in on that double, and I'm going to try to get you to the ground. Nurmagomedov throwing counter shots, spinning, body kicks, spinning back fists, the regular Saeed Nurmagomedov game plan that we saw, right? When we're talking about takedowns, right? I mean, neither of these guys technically landed a takedown, even though, I mean, I would call Saeed Nurmagomedov. He landed that Uchimata that he landed on Cody Stamann was beautiful, folks. And if you don't know what an Uchimata is sitting at home, it's a traditional judo throw that you use a lot in wrestling, you use a lot in jiu-jitsu. And that's the thing that kind of stood out to me a little bit. It was like the wrestling of Saeed Nurmagomedov was the big question mark, right? But we didn't really see the wrestling. We really saw more of his grappling capabilities, because it's funny, AJ, I actually just in jiu-jitsu a couple days ago in class, man, one of the things we were learning is when somebody like a good wrestler gets a good single leg on you, right? Their head is probably going to be kind of like in this area. You're going to push it onto the outside, and then you're going to grab your arm, slide in for the guillotine, boom. Well, that's what Saeed Nurmagomedov did to Cody Stamann. And now that I think about it in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, this is like this makes the most sense. You have a very pressure heavy wrestler who's is going to be looking for those takedowns. Why don't, instead of working the kickboxing countering, I work my grappling countering? And now it's so clear. It's I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. That's how I'm feeling right now, brother. Because in all honesty, man, like let's be real. That's the best way you could beat a Cody Stamann. You're gonna try to fight fire with fire, or are you gonna use his momentum against him, Uchimata him, get the guillotine, and call it a day? I don't know. I'm very impressed by this Saeed Nurmagomedov performance, clearly, as you can tell. I just didn't expect for someone to do it against a Cody Stamann, who has been submitted a couple times, never been knocked out. So that's what I was banking on. But what do you make of all of this, man? Like, are you as impressed as I am in this matchup?
Man, very impressed. It was a very fast fight. I forget how long, whether don't even know if it made it past a minute, but being dry, being in there, having to get that. And he had that front choke in deep, and that guillotine was deep. He even was able to put his other hand on the back of Stamann's head, so that way he can actually get a real serious squeeze on early in the fight when they're both strong, like I said, not too sweaty. So it's a little harder to slip out. Very impressive from Saeed Nurmagomedov, man. And I had literally there wasn't too much other notes you could really take, but I had the same thing. WOW period. Wow, man. Very quick for Nurmagomedov. He came out hot. Stamann came out with the pressure. Perfect game plan, like you said, Derek. Push that head to the side, get that choke in. Very fast. I think they said it was the third fastest submission in the the bantamweight featherweight. Forget what weight class it is, but either way, third fastest submission in the weight class. Man, Nurmagomedov set it up and sunk it deep. Very impressive, very fast, and I'd still like that he was able to show a little bit of striking there too. Man, came out hot. I like this one a lot, man. It was a good fight, even though it was short.
Yeah, brother. So what it looks like is that this fight got finished in 47 seconds. So you know what I mean. What more do you want? But that's the thing. When we're looking at a Saeed Nurmagomedov, man, let's just take a look at his record real fast. Once again, man, you have in his last couple of fights, Cody Stamann, first round victory under a minute, guillotine choke. First round victory against Mark Striegel back in 2020. Right, he lost a decision to Raoni Barcelos, but first round KO for Ricardo Ramos. I mean, obviously in these other fights, you got some decisions, but, it's just like in the UFC, he's just finishing all of these people. And that's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, but that's this question mark that you still have on him. Okay, that's what I was banking on. I was like, okay, if Cody Stamann can make this a dogfight and make this go 15 minutes, I mean, look at what Raoni Barcelos did to him. Obviously, Cody Stamann's not nearly as good of a striker as Raoni Barcelos, but nonetheless. But when you don't even allow it to become a fight, that's what you want. That's like Francis Ngannou right there, right? It's like we're not even going to see what 15 minutes looks like because we're just going to smash you, except this weekend, but neither here nor there. All right, AJ, the question that I have on the flip side on this one, man, because we already talked about how impressive it was for Nurmagomedov. Cody Stamann, that's 3 in a row, brother. That's 3 in a row. Those are 3 kind of rough losses right there. Obviously the one against the Machine, Marab, that wasn't as bad. The one against Ricardo Lamas, I think that was short notice. If I even recall that correctly, if he did fight Ricardo Lamas, let me just take a look real fast. See what we got for the Spartan. It was Jimmy Rivera. Oh, where did I get that other name from? Yeah, so the fight against Jimmy Rivera, Marab. I mean, this is 3 losses in a row. His last win was against Brian Kelleher in 2020, man, and that's not necessarily the biggest name that you want on your resume for that to be the case. So what do we do with the Cody Stamann here? He was actually putting a lot of pressure on himself, saying that this could have been his last fight on his contract for the UFC. He doesn't know if he will get renewed with the promotion. But do you think Cody Stamann still has a slot in the UFC, or do you think that this skid has just been a little bit too rough to overcome?
It's a real rough skid, real rough skid for Cody Stamann going forward, man. 3 losses, and especially this one with how quick it was, you could tell he was very devastated once he did tap. He was almost tapping basically instantly, so you can see that he was very regretful once the choke let go and he went back to his corner. What do we do with him? I still think he's a very talented fighter. And if this fight would have gone a little longer, then we would have been able to see that. What I like most about a Cody Stamann is he's able to test the grit of the other fighters. And if this fight would have went a little bit longer, I think we would have been able to see that grit being tested of Said Nurmagomedov. And I think that's the best part about Cody Stamann's game, man. The fact that he can wrestle, he can keep that pressure going the entire time. Sure, he got caught up in this quick choke, but I don't think it's necessarily a cut kind of an issue for him. He still has a lot of power, a lot of praise going forward, and he's a dog. So, I don't think they could really necessarily get rid of him. At least I hope not. But 3-fight losing streak does kind of not bode the best for a Cody Stamann going in the future. I do think he's still in that top 15, top 20 rank. But, I mean, there's a lot of up-and-comers, so I think he's going to have a hell of a fight in his next one to really get one back. Hopefully they don't cut him because he's a very good talent, though, Derek. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hope that they keep him around because I think he definitely has a spot, even if it's a quote-unquote gatekeeper spot, a gatekeeper to the top 15, a gatekeeper to the top 20. Even if it's that spot, I do think he definitely deserves to stick around because, honestly, dude, he's still young in his career. He's 32. He's just reaching the prime of his career. This is a dude who you want to keep around to be able to test these other fighters. And like I said, aside from Ricky Simon and a Merab Dvalishvili, he's arguably, top 3, third best wrestler in the division. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that one. Victor Henry might have some arguments on that one because Victor Henry says that he's the best wrestler, but neither here nor there.